Hello, everyone. Welcome to this podcast where we try to figure out the name of the podcast. I am Ryan, and I am here with my friend Steven.
Hello, long time listener, first time being a visiting host.
Seeing as how we are trying to figure out the name of this podcast, I figured a good place to start would be how do you know how you got your name?
What was that?
Do you, do you know how you got your name?
Uh, yes. I was named after my grandfather who died before I was born. Do you know how you got your name?
Yeah, mine is. It was literally done out of spite because I have an older cousin who was born in like November the year before me, and his name was Brian, but my mom wanted to name me that, so she just took away the B.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. That's a good
Mm.
story.
Um. Oh yeah. So like I was trying to think of names earlier, but I just found myself getting stuck. When you are like when you are naming something, what is like something you think about when you're trying to come up with it?
Usually I just name goblins or crazy places. And for those, it doesn't really matter because I basically just hit a random letter on the keyboard and then make it sound funny. So I'm just like Farlargle or something like that. So it's probably, I mean, that's one way you could do it for the podcast, but I don't know if any people are going to look at something that's like the Snarf Par
Mm-hmm.
podcast and just want to go with that.
Yeah, that's really that's actually really funny. Cause like
Yeah.
I always like overthink it.
Yeah.
Like I remember, I think it was Overwatch where my username is something that I think is so stupid. I think it was like Cryo Phoenix or something like that. Cause
Hmm.
I liked ice and I liked phoenixes.
One way to do it. Usually I go for it.
Hmm.
Like I mean um I don't even remember what video game it is, but my username for it is just Dr. Bazinga Badanga because it was the first thing I thought of.
Hmm.
But yeah.
I've been looking at other podcasts, and it's like they all seem to have something pizzazz. So I guess pizzazzy is the only word that's coming to mind. Like one of the ones that I listen to is Radio Lab. Like that's pretty straightforward, and I feel like it catches people's attention if that makes sense.
I feel like a lot of podcasts are like two words.
Hmm.
Because podcast I listen to it's Dude Soup.
Yeah, I found myself thinking just about like names in general, like with the names that we were given. Like at what point is it something that we choose to identify versus something that that was given to us?
Yeah.
I think about people who change their name for legal reasons. At what point did Ryan stop being the name my mom gave me? Because like I still tell people that I'm Ryan, and if I really didn't feel
Yeah.
that way, I would just say something else.
Hmm. Another interesting thing is marriage, because more and more women aren't taking their husbands' surnames.
Hmm.
That's something that me and Angie have talked about before. Not really argued, but I don't want to change my last name, and she doesn't want to change her last name, but we want to have the same last name, so it's
Hmm. Yeah, and like
something that eventually we'll figure out. But
yeah,
mostly that's just because I mean I'm named after my grandfather, so I don't want to change my name because I'm proud of it. And
yeah. I found myself like thinking about this and like comparing myself with like say people who are transgender or people who change their names because like sure I tell people I'm Ryan, but I'm just kind of it's just kind of something that I've been used to. Whereas like someone who is transgender per se or someone who just changes their name in general, they are making that conscious choice for something that like they feel is right for them. So it's also raising this question of authenticity. Am I really Ryan? Like is this the real me?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't. It's an interesting question I hadn't really thought about.
Hmm.
And also, I mean, Steven's the kind of a versatile name. I mean, growing up, my family called me Stevie. Uh, um, Now people just call me Steven, but I mean, some people call me Steve, but I never introduced myself as Steve. So it's interesting that I'll meet someone and I'll tell them my name is Steven, and then from there on out, they just will call me Steve because they assume that that's what I go by, which I don't mind at all. But
So, like, say you meet someone and they ask if they can call you Stevie. Like, do you prefer being called Steven by like friends?
uh, so like I mean, in school, like first day of school, the teacher would be like, Steven, do you go by Steven or Steve? So, and if they asked, I'd say I go by Steven, and then that would be it. But some teachers would just call me Steve, which I didn't care. Um,
Hmm.
I know some people, like my brother Benjamin, he hates being called Benji. I mean, we all call him Benji because that's what we've been calling him for years, but something he really doesn't like when other people call him Benji.
Yeah. Like, that's always, yeah, nicknames are always something that, like, I think about because it's like, Ryan is a very short name. So it's like, like, I've had occasion, like, teachers would call me Rye, but I never even, like, really had that option.
Yeah.
I think one thing I wanted to try to avoid with naming this podcast is, well, one, naming it something that I would regret later on. Like,
Hmm.
not even necessarily being a bad name, but just something that I don't really resonate with.
Yeah.
And it's like there actually was one semester that I was really considering my name and if I wanted to change it or not.
Hmm.
And it's like looking back at it now, like I know those names don't really resonate with me now, but at the time they did.
Yeah.
And I also found myself thinking about people with dissociative identity disorder, where they have the multiple personalities, but they're naming themselves. Like they're still addressing them by their desired names.
Yeah.
Do you think you could find a point that you really started feeling like Steven?
Uh, I don't think I can pinpoint like a specific point, but I mean, I've always been Steven. It's what the name. But I mean, probably more when my dad would tell me stories about my grandpa and finding out I had the same name as him. I think that's probably when I started realizing like my name had a purpose, and that's when I was like, oh, there's a reason I have this name, and it's this connection I have with my grandpa. And then, I mean, since then, I haven't really. I mean, at one point, I was thinking about going by Fen because it's the last
Hmm.
half of my name, but I mean that never stuck around.
Yeah. Do you know how old you were when you found out?
Uh no, I don't have a distinct memory. I mean, I feel like my parents always talked.
Yeah.
My dad would always talk about my grandpa, so I don't know when specifically he told me that, but just hearing stories as a kid, it resonated with me.
Yeah. I know, like psychologically speaking, like based on what I've learned from like DID, is that this sense of identity tends to be formed around
Mm-hmm.
like 9 years old. Cause like people with DID, it happens from repetitive trauma, and it happens like between the ages of like 6 to roughly 9.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like the sense of identity essentially isn't formed.
Oh,
Okay.
hi, Steven.
Hello.
Hello. No.
Oh,
Okay. So Ryan, we actually started and basically okay, so we started talking about our names because I'm trying to find a name for this podcast. So
Oh,
we
yeah?
so yeah, we're talking about, why were we given our names? At which point
Oh,
does it feel like us?
interesting.
So it's like for you, what is when you are naming an account that you are creating, What is something that you take into consideration?
I make like a social media account today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have one username that I have used that is not East German Apologist for like the last 7 or 8 years since I read the book Catch 22.
Mm-hmm.
And the main character of that book has a name that starts with a Y, but that name is always taken, so I just switched the letter to a different letter,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I use for pretty much everything now.
Nice.
Yeah, but in the past, I was so stupid. Like when I was like, I was 7 or something, my parents were like, "All right, time to get your IQ tested," and I was like, "This is not good." And they gave me the IQ test, and it was not that IQ tests mean anything, but it was okay. And so my parents made me use that for my email. So my email was like IQ, the three numbers afterwards. It was just not good. I would really like to delete everything in association with that.
Brain energy.
Yeah, unfortunately, my Minecraft account got hacked from that era, so that information is public on a paste bin somewhere.
Oh no.
Username, email, and password.
Do you know why you were given the name Ryan?
I think it's like biblical, or maybe not biblical, but it means like king or little king or something. I was
Yeah.
told at some point in my life, but I don't really think there was a lot of brain power put behind that decision. Because if it was biblical, my parents don't go to church,
Mm-hmm.
so there's really no reason for that to have occurred. Is it the same for you? Was yours a biblical choice?
My mom wanted to name me Brian, but my aunt took that name a few months earlier, so she just took away the B.
Classy. Steven, you went through a similar situation, didn't you?
Well, I'm named after my grandfather, who died when my dad was 20. But I mean, it was kind of the reverse situation because the name Stephen in my family comes from my ancestor Stephen Markham, and so my grandfather's name is Stephen. Um, but my dad's brother, his younger brother, his name is Markham. So when my dad named me Stephen, it was this big controversy in the family because my uncle Markham felt like the name Stephen was his birthright. So it was this. So I have like three cousins that have the middle name Stephen,
Oh no.
but that's okay.
So if you had a son, do you think you would name him Steven?
No, definitely not Stephen because I don't want a junior.
Hmm.
Because it's never a junior because like my grandpa was Stephen, um, and then it was Markham Stephen Hyde. But
Hmm.
so I'd probably name my son. Me and Angie, when we've talked about naming boys, we like the name Christopher and Michael because those are our dad's names.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
I don't know if I'd include a Stephen as a middle name. I don't know.
What if you just gave him the middle name S?
S.
Yeah,
That'd be pretty good.
like
Me and
William
Angie have talked about
Beecher.
having one kid who just has like six names, and then all of our other kids just have three names.
Very good.
One of the things that I talked about with Steven before you came, it was talking about like how we weren't necessarily choosing our names, but like I was talking about how I was thinking about like people who decide to change their names later on,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like even though it's like for me, I'm just kind of like begrudgingly just telling people I'm Ryan just because that's the name that I live with. One of the things that I want to avoid is also like not being authentic with like a podcast name. Even with my normal name, am I less authentic because I might not feel like a Ryan?
That's interesting because people do get to change their names. And it's become more common, I think,
Mm-hmm.
especially with people who are, have some kind of gender dysphoria that need to correct that. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think that having a name makes you like disingenuine because you're not vibing with it.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think if you wanted to change your name, I think you could. You could do it. So if I was gonna name this podcast, would I name it the Ryan Podcast? If I didn't feel like a Ryan, which I feel like a Ryan, but I don't know. You know, I think it would still be authentic because you're still the creator and it's still the name that you were like slapped with,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whether or not you're gonna stick with it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I guess the issue would be if you really like decide to change the name later, then you've got a podcast named after you that suddenly does not share your name.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, I do I do feel like Orion, but it's like, there was a point in my life when I was questioning, am I really Ryan? And if I were to change my name, what would I want it to be?
Right.
There have been accounts that I created where I look back at them now and I'm just like, oh my god, I just want to delete everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
My email I still use that I made in 7th grade is named after a Hunger Games character.
We respect that, Steven.
Yes.
Very good. I think I have like my first email when my dad set one up for me was based on these like children's books called the Three Investigators children's books. So
Hmm.
it's got that content going on in the name, but obviously I don't run an investigation agency and there aren't three of me. So
Yeah, I'll just name this podcast the FBI.
yeah.
I was okay talking about naming things. Something that I've been talking about with my family lately is how horrible Alfred is at naming things and coming up with acronyms.
How, in what example?
ICU.
Yeah,
The,
that's pretty bad.
the
Fair.
CDC?
We have the
Also not
ICU and the
good.
CDC.
True.
And I
Yeah, I
think
guess.
there's other stuff on campus, but it's like they like it's almost like they're going out of their way to choose
Right.
acronyms that are already well known for other things.
Like, is it CSI like Center for Student Involvement?
Yes.
Yeah, like CSI Miami. That's good. Sad. I wonder if you like you're saying it's intentional or not. 'Cause yeah, I can't think of any examples where an acronym for something doesn't line up with a pre-existing agency.
Yeah, but it's like you're choosing things that are already like so well known.
Right. I wonder if that's intentional though.
Yeah, I don't know.
Although I would have to agree, like ICU, probably not. Good idea. Probably not a pro gamer move.
Institute of Cultural Unity, which is a fine name. It's just I feel like there are so many other names they could have called it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the head of it now, he hates that it's the ICU because he's worked in the medical field, and the ICU is always going to be the
Yeah.
ICU. So
Right.
he tries to just he's been trying to get people to just call it the Institute, which is almost worse somehow
Yeah,
for
that's
me.
like Fallout 4 villain.
Yeah, like
Oh
the
no.
Institute, no matter how, like it just sounds like an evil shadow government.
Yeah, not good. I don't know. I don't think there's really a correct way to finagle out of that at this point.
Yeah.
You could just call it cultural unity.
Yeah, the CU.
CU.
That's like a
Or
spy
like
agency, but that's fine.
the Center for Cultural Unity.
Yeah, that's good
CU.
too. CCU. Yeah.
A lot of podcasts are just the blank cast, like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But I don't. Are there any podcasts that take the pod out? So it's just I don't know.
The cast. I'm sure there's a stupid musical theater podcast that's just named The Cast.
No, I mean instead of using the cast, using the pod. So it's like
Oh,
Dolphin Pod.
I like it. Yeah, I really don't know how to solve your name problem though, Ryan. My brain is complete mush when it comes to naming things. So prayers.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I feel like it's going to come to me,
Yeah.
preferably by the end of the 7 minutes. Uh,
Yeah.
Um, but it's like I don't know because I just
Saxon cast.
oh, I want something that just like feels well. One, it feels authentic, and I also want something that isn't that doesn't feel ugly when I say the name. Like,
Right.
yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I feel that.
Like I was trying to come up with like a couple names earlier, and I am avoiding the letter K,
Probably a good choice.
and it's
Is
like
there a particular reason?
I don't know. It just sounds very okay. So for me, letters either sound like round or sharp. K is very sharp.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And it's like there was this Netflix series. It's actually a very short 8 episode thing, a TV show about a podcast, and it's the Midnight Gospel. I don't know, it just like flows.
Right. That is good content.
Hmm.
And it's made by the creator of Adventure Time, which is god tier show. In terms of name, yeah, I do agree with you. That's like flowy. It's got a ring to it, you know.
Hmm. I know I sent the sort of gist of what I was looking or what I was thinking about in terms of content. I know I said something along the lines of, Steven, I don't know if I sent it to you, but like the gist of it was, what I said was, well, to put it bluntly, nothing and everything. It's hard to say because it can be very philosophical or very chaotic. And it's like, even with the conversation that we're having now, it's like diving into the thought process
Hmm.
Mhm.
of naming something.
Yeah.
Right, which is hard.
Hmm.
Don't know. That is a big fat hurdle.
It really is. And it's like, I'm a pretty indecisive person already. So it will take me forever to come up with a name.
Yes.
Like whenever I
And
play Pokemon, it takes me forever just to choose a starter.
right. Yeah, and this is important because you don't want to look at something in 30 days and go, man, I do not vibe with that anymore. Especially when it's something you have like creative control over. Like your given name is something that you really can't. I mean, you can fix it now, but for the first 18 years of your life, it's kind of something you're just dealing with.
Mm.
So with this, I don't know, take time to make it correct.
I'm on a podcast name generator.
Yes, good.
Well, it's actually a business name generator, but you have to like put in like like a word to start out with. But I
Oh,
threw the word free in there. The I don't know. The one I like so far is jam free. Maybe free jam would be better.
I don't know, cause
sounds
like
good.
I mean, I actually that actually does sound nice.
Freeopolis. Freeopolis.
That sounds like a city in Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah. Velocity free. I don't know why there's so many about like speed. Free feet.
Gotta go fast.
Free verse. But it's one word.
Okay, so something that just came to my mind. So it's like everything I do, I everything that I present out to the world, I try to do with like a level at a level that would be seen as like professional.
Hmm.
So it's like the first thing that just came up to my mind was like the business philosopher. Like even though those it's doesn't quite seem right,
Right,
but I feel like that's definitely where I'm basing this off of.
right. A
Yeah.
level of professional sounding content.
Hmm. But it's also not something that would sort of throw people off.
You should go to the similar website called copywritingcourse.com with two Ks. That has a good podcast name generator.
I put in the name. Okay. I think there was just a glitch with this website because I put in the word philosopher and the first result was just the word shotgun.
I like it.
Talk line philosopher. Play ball philosopher. Philosophasaurus.
Oh no.
Joy philosopher.
Yeah, this is quite the hurdle. And I suspect the answer does not lie in these cheapo name generators.
Yeah.
Thought about making a nice like MS Paint logo yet, Ryan?
Oh yeah. Can you see my screen?
No.
I cannot.
All
When
right.
Ryan joined, we got rid of the screen share.
Oh, I see the button though.
I
Bring
mean,
it
I'll
up,
send you
Ryan.
guys
Let's
the
see
video
it.
anyways, because I've just been low key drawing as we've been talking.
Oh, good. In what program?
JS Paint.
JS Paint.
Yeah, it's actually something through Google because when I was screen sharing with Steven, he couldn't see the Paint program.
Interesting. I see this very nice website. It is good content.
It's
Look
the
at that 1995 images. Whoa, wow. Wow, that is like authentic MS Paint. Extras. Cool, cool, cool. Good luck, Ryan. I think this is a good program to make a logo in.
hmm
Oh yeah. Nope.
The Business Philosopher is a website.
Oh my gosh.
Is it really?
Yeah.
What do they do?
The wow, this man's name looks like two last names.
See
Andrews
that?
Inset.
I like that nice blurry photo on the back of the webpage too.
Yeah.
This man is a published author, Stephen.
I'm sure he is. He's a business philosopher.
Right? Philosophy at work. Wild knowledge.
Ooh, the Business Philosopher was also a book that was published for 10 cents in 1906.
So I guess that name's out of the running, Ryan.
Yeah. Oof.
Business with one S.
I mean, I
The
probably
first
wasn't
page,
gonna use that anyways.
random noun generator. We can get 3 random nouns and string them together, Ryan. I think that'll do it. Number of nouns, 3. Number of syllables, irrelevant. Management, passenger, user. Sounds pretty good.
What
Has
about
a
Doug's
great
Fish
ring to
Fry?
it.
I looked up a synonym for philosophy, and one of the things that came up was manifesto. I feel like that's gonna be a part of it.
That's good.
And then a synonym for business is work, and you could just be work manifesto.
Sounds like a Ted Kaczynski type thing. Very good.
Terrorist cast.
Whoa, now I don't know if I'd call him a terrorist, Steven.
Uh,
He was a free thinker.
yeah. Unfortunately, his thoughts sometimes conflicted with other people's lives.
Yeah,
How does the current manifesto sound?
sounds pretty good.
I like it.
In terms of names that you're gonna come up with, I think that's a decent one.
If you Google it, the first result is Manifesto 2019 of the Labor Party.
Oh, I guess it's the third result for me. Mine is the first one came up for me is something called alertlogic.com. It said the MBR manifesto, which I think is it's management detection and response. It's I think it's like an anti-terrorist organization because there's 7 steps in the MBR plan. Number 1 is reduce the likelihood or impact of successful attacks.
Oh, jeez.
Weird.
Uh,
So your intellectual property is clear, Ryan.
yeah. Is there another word for current you think would flow better? Because I feel like current is pretty close to what I want.
I mean, you could do modern.
Ooh,
Then
that's
you'd
kind
have
of
the
fun.
double M. I don't know if that's what you're looking for. Modern manifesto.
The
I mean,
present manifesto.
wait, what'd you say, Ryan?
The present manifesto. I don't know. I'm looking at synonyms.
I like the modern manifesto.
That's pretty good. That kind of does sound like a Unabomber document, though. No, I don't see anything that's taken it. When you Google it, result number 4 is the modern edition of the Communist Manifesto. So I think you're pretty clear.
Eliot's Modernist Manifesto.
I think that's about art.
Yeah, I think so too. Oh boy, it's in French.
Because like I feel like the word modern sort of fits me.
Right. I think it's good, and I like the alliteration.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I got it.
It's very good. Now, Ryan, I gotta ask, how do you like? What do you do with the podcast? Like, where does it go? Where does it live?
YouTube.
Cool. I've looked into this in the past briefly to try and like upload the crappy radio shows that we do sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and like I dove into this like awful rabbit hole of like these sad websites that'll host your RSS feed, which I don't know what that is, but I guess it's related to podcasts, and it
You
seems
can
kind of
buy it.
expensive to me.
I'll be sure to send you guys the current logo I did on JS Paint.
Please. That's very good. Very with all those that program has some of the most robust editing features I've ever seen. So I'm sure it's good work.
And I will be ending this podcast. Thank you all for coming.
You're very welcome. Oh, thank you for having us, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks. See you soon.